What's going on, everyone? Hope you are having a terrific day. So I want to talk about things I wished I knew before tackling tinnitus. So I wished I knew that something could absolutely be done about it. Not in the way that Western medicine tells you, with a pill or a quick fix, but real meaningful progress is possible. And that's something that doctors just don't tell you. The reason they don't tell you this is because doctors have very little information about tinnitus. Most ENTs, they take a quick primer on it in med school and that's it. And unless they specialize in it, they're barely given very much information at all. And they barely even give it a second thought. You go to them hoping for answers and they either shrug you off and tell you that you're just going to have to live with it. And that response alone can send you spiraling into hopelessness. It did for me. So I wish I knew that just because a doctor doesn't have the answers, it doesn't mean that there isn't an answer that's out there. I also wish that I knew that yes, tinnitus is scary. It's mentally very painful. It can feel like a prison in your own head, but I can recover, and I recover not by fighting it, not by resisting it, but by making space for it and allowing it to exist. Because here's the truth. The more you focus on it, the more you fight it, the worse it gets. The more you fear it, the more power it then has over you. Tinnitus is like a schoolyard bully. It feeds on your reaction to it. If you flinch, if you panic, if you obsess over it, it wins. But if you learn to ignore it, and stop engaging with it, then it starts to lose its grip. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking, how do I ignore something that's so loud and obnoxious? You do it by meditating. You do it by progressive muscle relaxation. You do it by allowing yourself to be in the presence of it, but not reacting towards it. I did this by meditating I was meditating with background sound, and I would keep it, the tinnitus, where I could still hear the tinnitus, but I could barely hear it, but I could still hear it. And then over time, I tapered the background noise down, and I would meditate longer and longer and longer, to where now I could put earplugs in and meditate for hours. I sleep with earplugs in my ears, and I don't even notice the tinnitus. That's how you do it. If you want to meditate with me, and if you want to get some one-on-one personal training, you can hit the link below, grab my book, and you'll have the option to do that as well. So this isn't just theory. It's proven. It's called habituation, the process where your brain learns to tune it out, just like it does with the hum of a refrigerator or the sound of traffic noise or a fan out in your bedroom or any other sound. At first, it's all you hear, but then over time, it fades into the background. But the key, you have to let it fade. A lot of people, and almost all the negative comments that people message, they do not know, they're not letting it fade. They're refusing to let it fade. Okay? And that means stop fighting it. You have to stop fighting it. That means practicing patience and self-love, right? You can't get frustrated with yourself. That's fine, but you have to learn how to calm yourself down, because all of that is going to help when you are learning how to rewire your mind to stop reacting every single time you hear it. You have to rewire your brain to stop reacting every single time you hear it. The more you do, the more into the background it begins to fade. And meditation, it's not optional, it's essential. Not just something that you do for 5 minutes and expect a result, but something you practice all the time. And a way to train your mind to accept the noise instead of resisting it is through meditation and progressive muscle relaxation. Okay? I wish I knew that recovery isn't about silencing the sound. Listen, if you're like, how do I silence it? And then you're trying some quick remedy, and then you're checking to see if it's there, you're training your brain to listen to the sound. Okay? It's about silencing the fear, not the sound. By silencing the fear and lowering your fear towards the tinnitus, your brain will begin to tune it out, and then you will discover your silence again. Because once the fear is gone, the tinnitus is just there. It's just there. That's it. It just is. You have no meaning attached towards it. It's no difference between any other background noise in your life. No doctor told me this. No doctor told me this. There was no Google research that told me this. I had to learn this the hard way. And if you're struggling, I want you to know You're not broken. Your brain is not broken. You're not doomed. You can get better, but you have to shift your mindset because tinnitus isn't the problem. Your reaction to it is. And when you stop reacting, you start healing. The way tinnitus is treated by most doctors is completely outdated. They don't have correct information about it. When we first experience tinnitus, we do the same thing. We panic. Of course. Why wouldn't you? We rush to the doctor hoping for a cure, quick fix, medical breakthrough, some sort of thing. Nothing we can do. Just try to ignore it. You'll just have to live with it. That's not true. It's not true because there is something that can be done. But the approach most doctors take is completely wrong because Western medicine teaches you this. If there's something wrong with you, give you a pill. That's Western medicine. That works for a broken leg. That works for a lot of problems where if you have an infection, you take an antibiotic and then the infection goes away and you're cured. Okay. Well, what about psychological problems? What about emotional problems? What about problems that are more complicated, like tinnitus? What about those problems? Well, that's why Western medicine is really silent when it comes to tinnitus, but that doesn't mean there's not a cure. The truth is, you have to understand these doctors. Why do you think it's called practicing? Because they're practicing. You have to understand that like 500 years ago or whatever, when antibiotics didn't exist, when you got a bacterial infection, it was essentially hopeless if you got the wrong one. Okay, now fast forward, we have antibiotics for pretty much everything. So you have to think that 500 years from now, we're going to have more information. Doctors are going to have way more information, way more breakthroughs on this stuff. So we're in the very elementary phases of tinnitus. Meaning there's so much ground we need to cover, and we're just in the very beginning stages of treating stuff like tinnitus. You have to see it that way. That there is a cure out there. There are steps forward. The doctors just don't know about it. And until they get the information, you're probably going to keep hearing the same thing if you go to them. So realize that they're probably going to keep saying the same thing, but it doesn't mean you're hopeless, okay? They do not understand mental impact, the psychological spiral, the way it hijacks your attention and dominates your thoughts. Doctors do not understand that about it. They think it's just a noise in the ear, so just ignore it. That's how they see it. They don't understand the emotional impact that it can have on your life and how it can hijack your entire life and derail everything about your life. They don't understand that, okay? And that's the biggest lie that we've been told about tinnitus, is that it's permanent, is that it's untreatable, that your only option is to suffer in silence. I can tell you, I'm not suffering in silence. I have my silence back 98% of the time. I do not hear it. Whether you want to say it's virtual silence, so some people will say, well, if you hear it 2% of the time, you still have it. Well, I'm not aware of it 98% of the time. So as far as I'm concerned, that's my silence. If I'm not aware of it, I have silence. Do you understand? I have my silence back 98% of the time. And no one can tell me I'm lying, because that has been my experience with it. The more you fight it, the worse it gets. The more you fight it, the worse it gets. Repeat after me. When I first got tinnitus, my instinct was to fight it, to resist it, to do anything I could to silence the noise. That is the wrong approach. That's the approach that every single person takes. There's nothing wrong with sound masking if you're using it strategically to habituate yourself to the ringing. There's nothing wrong with it. But using it all the time to block out the noise, you have to gradually taper yourself down and gradually desensitize yourself to the ringing in the ears. So that's how your brain understands that that's the sound that it needs to habituate out of your awareness. Okay, but me, I hated it, I feared it, and I obsessed over it until I learned that that was not going to get me to the place that I want to be. Okay, that's exactly why it gets worse for people, because they fear it, they hate it, and they obsess over it. It's just like I said. It's the same thing as the Democrats hating Donald Trump and then literally blowing him up to legend status. They hated him, they fought him, and guess what? They literally turned him into the biggest thing. If they would have just ignored him and just literally took everything he said with a grain of salt, he would have faded into obscurity, and MAGA probably wouldn't have been as big as it is. But because they attacked him, they feared him, they fought him, they obsessed over him, they literally created the thing. The Democrats created the thing that they were trying to stop. And that's so applicable to people with tinnitus, because they're literally creating the monster that they're trying to stop. Okay? So when you train your brain to see tinnitus as a threat, your brain will then focus on that threat. It's not going to let that threat out of your awareness, because to your brain, it's a threat and it needs to be monitored. So by doing all of this stuff, like I'm saying, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, progressive desensitization to the stimulus that you are fearing, you are teaching your brain that it's okay to let it go. It's not a threat, which we want to train the brain that it's not a threat. Okay. Exposure therapy is key. Exposure therapy is rooted in science. That is the number one thing of how to get people past phobias, right? If you're afraid of an elevator, first you might show someone a picture of an elevator. Then you might get someone close to an elevator. And then over time, you can then get someone to completely conquer the fear of elevators. That's just an example, but it's the same principles apply to tinnitus. So if you are wanting to take this to the next level, hit the link below. You can download a copy of my free book. And if you want to, you can work with me personally. I would love to work with you if that's something that you would like to do. Make sure to share this video, smash the subscribe button. You can always unsubscribe later, and comment below and I will answer your comments. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Peace.